Hey guys, this is Steel. Welcome to my first episode in my trail to survival. In this episode, I wanted to touch on one of the most important aspects of survival, if not the absolute most important aspect of survival. This is coming from lots of books, articles, and videos and conversations with people that I personally would trust with my own life, that I personally would trust with receiving information from, to determine that I think the most important thing about survival, the most important aspect about survival, is being prepared mentally. I think before you have water, I think before you have food, fire, guns, I think the most important thing to have is your mind. Everybody has a mind, right? I don't think so. I don't think everybody has their own mind. So the first point I wanted to touch on is being yourself. Right? That doesn't seem like something you should think of when you think of survival. But being yourself in everyday life it just infinitely strengthens yourself. So first off, you're not worrying about what other people think of you. And I promise this isn't just some sort of, weird guy talking about being yourself, be who you are, how the SJWs say. More so along the lines of, there are too many people who are puppeted in our world. And I'm talking, my personal experience is in the United States of America because that is where I live. That so many people are puppeted by our politicians that run for offices. So many people don't have actual personal opinions. They have sold, metaphorically, their mind, sometimes literally, their mind to groups and activist groups and politicians who are promising anything under, sometimes ridiculous things. And they sell their mind and their soul to these people. And they completely forego their agency. They completely forego their ability to think for themselves and to use critical thinking. And so, a lot of times they completely forego common sense. Now, I don't know what the greater agenda is for these evil politicians, for these evil groups. I'm not sure what their agenda is. However, I do know that they do have some sort of bigger agenda that they are not publishing to those people who are selling their minds to them. And with that greater agenda, they are taking these, a lot of the times, young children's minds up to middle-aged people, even now with the more seasoned generations. People are selling their minds to these organizations that have a bigger agenda that I would take an educated guess and say is probably rather selfish. And 99 times out of 100, I would say selfish people usually don't give good things. They don't have a good return policy, let's say. So these people are selling their minds, their souls, their opinions, or their right to an opinion, I should say, to these evil people. Right? They don't have their own minds anymore. So that's what I mean by be yourself. Have your own opinions. If your opinion is different than mine, if your opinion is different than the most popular survival YouTuber, it doesn't matter. If you truly believe that your opinions are right, then you are being yourself and you are doing the right first step to being prepared mentally. That's what I believe. Another thing that could go along the lines of being yourself is being open with those you care about what you're doing here. Not this specific video, but in this community. in this survivalist preparedness community, not a lot of people are very exposed to emergency preparedness. I was exposed, thankfully, to emergency preparedness whenever I was 13, I believe. I was on a camp out as a Boy Scout, and that's when I was exposed to the emergency preparedness merit badge. It was the most boring class I have ever taken, but it exposed me. I thought it was boring. I made fun of anybody who actually thought about emergency preparedness. Oh, this is never going to happen in my lifetime, right? I know I'm not the only one that said that. And if I am, this is really awkward, but I think we all get the point. But that planted the seed of something. I don't even know what it would be, but plant that seed. Be that person that shows what a prepper is. Alright, so be yourself, be open, be honest with, and don't be too open. You don't want to talk to everybody across the street about your preps, because that's not safe. You gotta keep it on the DL, because when SHTF does happen, let me tell you, those untrustworthy neighbors 3 doors down across the street, they're gonna come run into your house. And you don't want a bunch of roaches and rats sneaking under your bed, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, keep it on the DL, but talk to those that you do care about and trust about it. Because even if they disagree with you and say what I used to say about, oh, this is never going to happen in my lifetime, you're planting that seed like it did for me. And that's where it can branch out. Alright, so that's topic number 1, is be yourself mentally. Point number 2 is be strong mentally. I think what I mean by being strong mentally is educating yourself. So for those who are and have been to university, that is strengthening yourself mentally. For those who aren't going to university, a lot of the times that means going to a trade school. You're preparing yourself, or you're preparing your mind to be stronger, to be more self-reliant maybe. So for carpenters, you're able to design or create a house. You're able to do a lot of other things that a certain trade might not be able to do. Plumber work, mechanic work, electricians. There are a lot of other trade schools out there that provide the means to become certified in that. And this is, of course, talking about the United States job market and how it works here. There are many other things. Some people decide not to go to any sort of public education school, and they're homeschooled, or not even homeschooled, may just, live out on a homestead, and they learn from family and friends how to work and provide for a family, for friends, for your neighbors, by providing food, water, shelter, things that you learn, or things that they have learned in their own life. And that's also preparing yourself to be strong mentally. These are all important things. I have been guilty in the past of not doing any of those. And thankfully I've been able to correct that. But I think in today's day and age, it's far too easy to be idle and to be lazy. And that's one thing that will decay your mind. And you will not be strong mentally. It will destroy your mind as you sit on the couch and watch TV. And of course, there is a time and a place for that. Do not get me wrong. I mean, sitting down and watching a good TV show that's where it's at. But if that's all you're doing, like I did years ago, you are wasting away. Your mind is wasting away. And if you're not actively entertaining and stimulating your mind, it's going to go. That's why so many people are susceptible to those groups, to those politicians who steal and accept those opinions and minds that are being sold to them. It's because it's easy. So many people are lazy now, and they don't have a strong mind to combat against that. And I think that's where becoming strong mentally comes in. Point number 3, this is the last point that I wanna touch on, or for mental preparedness, is to be realistic. I used to love the show The Walking Dead, and I will tell you, when I used to be in high school, in the public education high school, I would look out the window and just imagine a huge horde of zombies coming at me. And I know I'm not the only one that did this, so don't make me feel like a loser for thinking this. I just imagine a horde of zombies coming through right in front of the bus. The bus slams on its brakes. I'd roll over, pull out an imaginary M16 and start lighting up zombies, right? That's not really realistic. I understand that there are definitely conspiracy theories, and let me rant about conspiracy theories for like 30 seconds. Conspiracy theories are not crazy theories. Anytime somebody hears conspiracy theorist, they're immediately turned off. They're like, nope, I don't want to hear any of it. I don't want to hear about it. A conspiracy theory is just a theory with a different name. I mean, anybody who conspiracy theorizes that the zombie apocalypse will happen, I will give them props. I mean, anything. It's a theory that I'm sure a lot of people are working hard to prove. I mean, anything that we speculate here in this community is theory. There is no fact that says North Korea will attack. There is no fact that says zombies will attack. There is no fact that says, I keep talking about zombies, sorry, but there is no fact that says the economy will shut down on April 29th, 2019. There's nothing that says that. So everything that we say is a theory, which is not a bad thing. That is a good thing. That means that we are trying to stretch our minds to encompass any scenario. That's what we're supposed to do. So theorizing is a good thing. But that's just my rant right there. But going back to that's what I would imagine. I would imagine this unrealistic scenario happening. And I think the first thing we have to do is focus on what the most likely thing to happen is. Now, I live in one of the states that was hit by a hurricane in 2018, or 2017, I guess, at the end of 2017. I live in Texas, and we got hit by Hurricane Harvey. I don't remember the death toll. I know it was pretty significant, but I know that the toll of cars, motor vehicles that were hit was, I think, more than... I'm not going to throw a number out there, but if you guys know the number, please comment it. It was it was a lot of money in cars damaged. The amount of families without homes was extraordinarily high. I was thankfully my house wasn't even flooded, but I've got a lot of close friends and family who were affected by that hurricane, and they were not prepared. They were not ready for what was happening. And this isn't a chop on them. This isn't a calling them out for not doing that. This is more so using their experience as hopefully a life lesson that we can all learn from to always be prepared for something that could happen realistically. So that first was a hurricane. That's a realistic scenario that I don't hear talked about enough. The hurricane wasn't, it was overwhelming, but it wasn't something that an active prepper couldn't handle. If somebody was actively prepared for that, with all of their preps and everything, I'm sure they would have gotten out just fine with that hurricane. But if so many people were able, and hurricanes 9 times out of 10 have a warning. You can prepare last minute for it, but that's what we don't want to do. We want to prepare beforehand. So be realistic about what's going to happen. So a couple things that could happen. That's the first one, hurricane. Depending on where you live, earthquake. Power outages. Long-term power outages for more than 3 days. That can start riots. I think it's something like without... the world is 9 meals away from rioting or something like that. From anarchy, I believe. So that's just a couple things that we can think of realistically. It doesn't always have to be the crazy bushcraft SHTF scenario. It can be a tornado, earthquake, hurricane, losing your job, guys, being laid off. I know a lot of us work for other people. If that employer lays you off for whatever reason, you are without income. At least in a lot of cases, you are without income. So do you have backup food? Do you have water? Do you have something that you can pay the bills with? I know some people are, or I wouldn't say lucky. I definitely wouldn't say lucky, but some people are in a situation of their life where they don't have those electric bills. They're able to produce their own electricity through solar panels, and I don't know, there's bills with that, all that stuff, but just your everyday bills like people have. I know that there are people that have worked hard enough to get in that place in their life. So would you be able to survive if you were laid off like that? Just a couple things to think about, being realistic. I mean, if you're thinking about what it's going to be like 3 months after SHTF, you're thinking, okay, I've got my 72-hour kit, I've got my bug out bag, I've got my guns, I can go hunt deer. Okay, well, where do you live? Do you live in downtown Dallas? Do you live in downtown Jacksonville, Florida? Do you live in Las Vegas, New York? Do you live in any of these places? If you do, you are more than likely not going to be hunting deer. You're going to be I'll tell you this much. Where I live, there is not a huge amount of wildlife, let's say. I personally would not go out hunting for deer because I would not expect there to be deer. If you don't know where you live, or if you don't know how it is where you live, look it up. Try to figure out how it does look. What's the population of deer in your area within 100 miles, 200 miles, whatever it is. Okay, if you don't have any deer, what about birds? Okay, well, do you have a shotgun to hunt birds? Do you have some sort of way to catch the birds, to trap the birds? Okay, well, you don't have any of that yet, and this is just assuming. Okay, well, let's go to rats. Okay, really? I've heard some preppers talk about, oh, we're going to catch rats, and we're going to, use the rats as food. That is I won't say stupid, but that's stupid. I mean, do you know how much trash is in their system? Do not eat rats. I do not care where you live. Well, okay, if you don't live in the city, if you live out and about, then eat the rats there. But what I'm trying to get at is be realistic about where you are. If you don't like how the odds look where you are, move. If you don't want to move, make the best of where you are and get to a place where you can move. Alright, so those are just the 3 points that I wanted to touch on, that I personally feel like if you were to work on all 3 of these points, and if you were to ask yourself, alright, point 1, am I myself? Do I have my own mind? Do I own my thoughts? If you are able to answer point 1, move on to point 2. Am I strong mentally? Am I able to handle day-to-day situations and actively respond to them accordingly and make the best of it? Alright, if you can answer that, move on to point number 3. Am I realistic? Am I being realistic of what might happen? Am I expecting the worst to happen, or am I expecting what is likely to happen? If you can answer point number 3, then I'll be happy to see you in episode 2. I'm still determining what topic that will be on, but I'll try to make it a little something cooler than this. I understand a lot of this video was kind of a rant, and a lot of it was kind of impromptu. I just had a couple of thoughts that I wanted to get out of there. Basically, I feel to be strong mentally is going to make just general life easier, which that's what we should be worrying about most importantly before we worry about prepping. If we can't live our day-to-day life, I mean, who's saying we can live our day-to-day life in 6 months whenever SHTF happens or something like that? Alright, so that's just kind of what I'm getting at here, is if we're able to answer all 3 of these points, and I'm still working on these 3 points, everyone. I mean, this is something that we have to work on day to day for the rest of our lives. If you can't deal with that, I mean, there have been points where I couldn't deal with that, then we might not be the right place for you in this community. But I know that we can all work on these things, and just I know if we can be strong mentally, then our day-to-day life will be better, as well as our preps, as well as our outlook and survival. Thanks everyone for watching this first episode in my trail to survival on being prepared mentally. I'd appreciate any comments or support that you guys have. I will respond to all of them as the best of my ability. Please let me know what you think of the video. Any tips, comments, suggestions. What I'm doing here with this channel, and this will be closing, I guess. I don't want it so much to be a video that you sit down and watch. I don't want it to be something that you sit down and say, okay, I want to see something cool. I want people to, and I want to do this for myself as well, but I want people to sit down and just listen. And hopefully the things that I've said can at least trigger some thoughts that you might have that might make you better prepared. It might make you think about what would be right for your own life. Because I know what I say it's not gonna fit everybody. It's not gonna fit 2 people, maybe. It might just fit one other person. Even that. This is what has worked for me. This is what I have experienced in my own life. So I think that can at least somewhat trigger something in your own life. Yeah, that's what I got, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I appreciate everything that you guys are doing here. This is Steel. I'm out.